This feels great being right next to the bonfire. Oh, I'm sorry. With all the gestures that there are, there's so much you can do with the different covenants and the secret dragon covenant where you need the path of the dragon and sit on a nice old mat. You can even transform into a dragon with many different stones and their different purposes. You got the main location, the Firelink Shrine, your base of operations, as well as the lady you level up at, the Firekeeper. Besides that, and starting out with a class of any type, knight, warrior, deprived, sorcerer, whatever, this is the review of Dark Souls 3. I'm your host, Tam the Tam BOTC channel, and we're going to be taking a dive and review into this game. Now, I've already completed this game with 3 different characters, so I should be set pretty much on this entire game and what I think. Tell me what you think, and leave it in the comments below. And remember at the end of this video to like, share, and subscribe. Thank you very much. Let's get on with the review. Now, with this game, first off, well, the loading screens aren't that bad, but I have had them load longer than usual. But they're not that bad. Dark Souls games never have that bad of loading screens. Let's touch upon the graphics. They're amazing. There's a lot of attention to detail within the world itself, and how the enemies fight and their different movesets. The movesets of the weapons themselves. The sound effects and music is just amazing. A lot of the enemies are very cinematic, and the sort of design and how their movement is really cool. The weapon setups, there's new weapon setups that are really amazing. There's weapons that are designed for dual wielding, but like Dark Souls 2, I wish there were weapons that were also able to power stance. You got the same stuff like plunging attacks, defending yourself with the L1 / left bumper, depending on what system you're playing it for. There's many traps set out for you, like enemies will pop out in different places or mimics. There's also secrets such as illusionary walls. Getting keys for different locations, there'll be a lot of backtracking, but you'll love it because the place looks amazing. There are places like this one, which reminds me of very Bloodborne-esque sort of places. There's a lot of different ways to go about situations. Oops. Such as this one. Awesome. There are many different ways you can go about playing this entire game. And it'll just be so cool. There's a lot of items, weapons, new things you can get, like if you go into your main menu. And a lot of people think, hey, this is a bad setup. Well, you can actually get rid of that, so you can see your character when you change your armor sets. And there are lots and lots of armor sets. There are even returning armor sets and such from previous games. If you really dig into the game's lore and story, it's amazing and all over the place. That's if you do. The boss battles are very cinematic and awesome. Problems with the game, though, are stuff like some of the bosses were really underwhelming and pathetic. To name a few, for spoiler alert. Alright. You're not being spoiled? Alright. Let's get on. Yorm the Giant was very disappointing. Where there are gimmicky bosses like Yorm the Giant or the Ancient Dragon, where you just sort of pick up, like, for example, the Storm Ruler. And that's how you beat the boss. There's a lot more creepier enemies, and you even can get some armor sets of some enemies too, which is a pretty cool feature. There's a lot of little things they've fixed here and there. You can press up or down on the D-pad. Hitting your messages heals you, like you just saw. All the little attention to detail is great. There's a lot of stuff I just love about this game. This is a game you're going to sink tons of hours into when you play it. But if you're not a Dark Souls fan, I even recommend it still. It's still a great game series, and you'll have a fun time with it. It's one of the few games that I was willing to buy, and so far it's one of the few games that's going to make it on my top 10 list, hopefully for this year. Definitely for this year. Dark Souls game never skips my top 10. There are a few other things that are disappointing that I wish they had in the other Dark Souls that they had in this Dark Souls. Like boss armor is one thing that I found sort of disappointing. And there wasn't much of it in this game. Like, there was boss armors, don't get me wrong. But barely as many as there was in other previous titles. Like Dark Souls 2, for example. You got a boss armor even of bosses you didn't even want the armor of. I always wanted armor sets like the Yorm the Giant's armor set. And I always wanted, like, for example, I wanted the Dragon Slayer armor boss and not just Ornstein's. Even though it's cool to have armor sets from previous enemies or bosses from other games, that's from other games that you previously played. It's not as unique when you could get those in previous games. It doesn't set that kind of standard. There's a lot of different ways you go about each situation in battle. Right now I'm too high level for this area, but I'm sort of like showing you a little bit of the area without spoiling like bigger areas for people. But anyways, let's hop on down here. But yeah, there's a lot of cool armor sets nonetheless. I found the Morn armor set being amazing. I love the secret dragon covenant, even though I don't think of it as a covenant. Another thing disappointing is covenants are easily teased with just farming for the supplies rather than PvP. PvP and online is just as awesome as it was, with new covenants adding to the amazing way you play the covenants. Like, take for example the one I'm sitting in front of, the Mound Makers, is it? You are this purple phantom, and you can choose to either co-op with the host of the world, or to decide to betray him later. But there's a lot of really cool things you can do with this game. You can set up like fashion souls, what you want as as your created specific character. And you can also set up for cosplay. There's many things I found the cosplay, and I even made 3 episodes on it. There's newer, bigger, tougher enemies and side bosses and side quests you will really be dragged into, even making your second playthrough, and so on and so forth. There are areas that you'll be able to see within the distance in your game that you'll go, hey, I was just there. Well, yes, you were. There were a lot of the areas are much larger and vast and awesome. You'll have tons of fun looking in nooks and crannies for new items and such. You'll be exploring master by the time you're done with this game. I've already synced over 200 hours into this game, and now I'm syncing more just to make this video. But when it comes to this, it's a just amazing game all around. And it's gonna be one that you're gonna want to buy. So at the end of the day, as well as I want to point out, another cool thing I found is the environments and certain enemies in the environment can react with one another. I found scenes like enemies like the Dark Wraiths attacking Goros, or whatever they're called. Anyways, they would attack one another, and it really added to the environment. Don't worry when I said there were some bad gimmicky bosses. There are great bosses too. For example, Nameless King. That was a really tough boss. There's also little details like this shiny flower or water reflections, which Ubisoft's The Division and Watch Dogs can never get a hang of. The enemies and difficulty will rank up. There's these creatures like these weird spider corpse ladies, which are the creepiest even out of Bloodborne standards. And they'll give you nightmares. The sound designs are great. Music is amazing. You'll really be able to tell in this game. You can also set up passwords and the way you set up notes as well, so you can change the formats. And it's awesome. There's a lot to do. Don't mind my password. Very immature password. But you can set up your own password setups for this. Just to be able to play with friends and family. Well, if your family plays. My family does. I just love Dark Souls. Get over it! Put it down here. I can fight this boss the rest of the video. I only have 15 minutes, by the way, because of the stupid strike, which should be gone by now, but for some reason not Ubisoft. I'm just thinking of them because of the reflections. They still can't get down right. But yeah, there's a lot of great stuff about this, about how you go about this game and the different combat setups, the different special abilities I want to take. For example, if you use one of my upgraded weapons, the Dancer weapons, you can hit at L2 or left trigger and hit away at the right trigger, or R1. Now I hear there's frame rate drops on PC when you're in that swamp area, Farron Keep. So be aware of that, PC owners. And depending on who you are, you will have a different way you fight. Whether you're the person with a shield and sword, a two-handed weapon of some type, a heavier weapon user, wearing some heavy bulky armor, or being someone who's fast like a ninja, or ranged, using bows and arrows, a different type, from large, then there's crossbows, and then your regular bows and arrows. With the different abilities on each, it's great. It's great. But what I give this game, also I want to note that a lot of the online is sort of has problems, and I have had the game crash on me several times, which is not good, due to the online. I don't know if it does the same thing as Dark Souls 2. It might. They do pop up with warnings, though, if it does. But just be wary of that stuff, and all the unable to summon this, unable to summon that. Whether that's a player already summoning that person, I have it happen way too much to feel that way. I feel like it's the game. But From Software is a good company has gotten onto it and updated the system the game quite a bit, so it should be doing fine, and it should be great. There's a lot of Easter eggs and other little things that relate to the older Dark Souls games, but I give this game a 8.7 out of 10 due to the errors I talked about, but it's still an amazing game. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe, and leave comments below. Bye.